Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. I'm Hasham. This is the third video on sources of long-term finance. First two videos I have completed nearly 7 long-term sources which are commonly applied in businesses. The first one, equity shares. What are equity shares? What are the advantages, limitations? Then preference shares, advantages, limitations, debentures, bonds, retained earnings, public deposits, and loans from financial institutions. These are the 7 sources of long-term finance I have explained you in the last 2 videos. Now in this video, 2 more long-term sources I am going to explain you, that is loan from commercial banks and lease financing. These 9 are the most commonly used long-term sources. Apart from that, many more are there, but these are commonly used. So in examination, you may get a theory question from this chapter, that is sources from long-term finance. Mostly theory will be asked. So if you want to score more marks in your financial management subject, watch all the theory videos. Be perfect about the concept, then only you can understand the problems also. Problems are based on theoretical understanding. So don't underestimate the theoretical part. So if you have not watched the earlier videos, I suggest you to go to the playlist of my channel. Select the subject Financial Management for BBA. Select the videos of chapter number 4, that is sources of long-term finance. Be perfect about the first 7 sources which I have explained. 8 and 9 I am going to explain in this video. So before proceeding further, I expect my viewers to take a screenshot of the points which I have written on the board. Now, commercial bank, loans from commercial bank. The commercial banks also play a very important role in providing the finance to the business. So this will, grow the economy. There will be economic growth in the country through these commercial banks. So what is commercial bank? It's a financial institution that grants loan, accepts deposits and offers a number of basic financial products such as saving account and certificate of deposits, etc. So it's a financial institution which accepts deposits from the people and grant loans. Apart from that, it will provide a number of financial products. Nowadays, banks, commercial banks are offering a number of financial services to the customers. In this way, these commercial banks are helping the government in making economic development of the country. These commercial banks can be said as the backbone of the economy. Now, commercial banks help enterprise by providing loans to produce goods and contribute towards industrial growth and employment opportunities. So these commercial banks will directly help the businesses in providing and granting the loans and providing employment opportunities also, because we have a wide network of commercial banks throughout the length and breadth of the country. Now, commercial banks give loan to businesses in the form of cash credits, bank overdrafts or term loans, or purchase or discounting of bills of exchange and issuing the letter of credit. So different ways the commercial banks will help the businesses in providing cash credits, in providing overdrafts, in providing the term loans, or discounting the bills of exchange, or issuing a letter of credit. These are few services the banks will give to the businesses. Now, what are the advantages from loans taken from commercial banks? The banks are flexible source of finance as the amount received is decided by the borrower. The borrower will decide that this much amount we need and can be increased or decreased as the business needs. Normally what will happen, the loan is fixed. But here, when the loan is taken from commercial banks, the borrower will have more flexibility. It can increase the amount or it can decrease the amount according to the needs of the business. And they can be repaid in advance. Funds are not required. When the funds are not required, they can immediately repay. For example, bank overdraft is taken. It is not for a specific period. As soon as as soon as the business receives cash, it will repay the bank overdraft. So like that, it will be more flexible, convenient to businesses to take the financial help from commercial banks. Banks keep borrowers' information very confidential and secure because the businesses wants that their information should not be leaked, should not go to the public. So bankers have the responsibility, obligation to keep the information of the customers very confidential and secure. And actually banks provide assistance in terms of need when the business is providing funds. Whenever the business needs immediate fund, they can approach the commercial banks and get immediate relief, financial help. Whereas when taking the loans from financial institutions or other sources, it will take a lot of time. But here instantly the bank can get, the business can get the help from commercial banks. These are the advantages of funds taken from commercial banks. Second, limitations. Funds are generally available for short period. Normally, commercial banks will not extend long-term credit. For getting the long-term credit, they have to go for other sources like from financial institutions or shares or debentures or bonds. But whereas when the firm needs short-term, they can approach commercial banks. Commercial banks will not give long-term loans. Then banks put forth difficult conditions before providing the loan. Another limitation is, again, formalities are there. Without completing all the formalities, the businesses cannot get the loan from commercial banks. So a lot of legal formalities are there. That is also one of the limitation. But advantages far exceeds the limitation. Limitations are only few, but advantages are many from commercial banks. Getting the financial help from commercial banks. So these are the things you have to remember when loans are taken from commercial banks. Now, one more last source of long-term finance I am going to explain you, that is lease financing. Nowadays, it is becoming more and more popular among businesses to take the assets on lease. So that's also a financing help the business is getting from the leasing companies. Specialized leasing companies are formed which provide the assets on lease to the businesses. So what is the lease agreement? What is this lease? First of all, I am going to explain. Lease can be defined as the arrangement. It is an agreement or arrangement between the lessor. Lessor is the owner of the asset and the lessee, the user of the asset. The business is the lessee and the lessor is the owner of the asset who purchases the asset for the purpose of lease. For example, I'm having a business. I need a car, but I don't have the money to purchase the car. The cost of the car, let it be 20 lakh. I cannot invest 20 lakh. I don't have so much of money. I will approach the leasing company. The leasing company is the lessor. Now they will purchase the car, 20 lakh rupees car, leasing company will purchase. They are the lessor and give the car to the lessee. The lessee can use the car. The car is owned by the lessor but used by the lessee. In return for periodical payment called lease rentals have to be paid by the lessee to the lessor. So it's an arrangement between the lessor, owner of the asset, and the lessee, user of the asset, whereby the lessor purchases an asset for the lease. First thing, the lessee has to approach the lessor. The lessor will buy or purchase the asset for the purpose of lease and allows him to use it. After purchasing the asset will be given to the lessee for its use and in exchange for periodical payment. That means asset is being received from the lessor to the lessee. Now lessee is obligated to pay periodical payment called lease rental or minimum lease payments, MLP. We can call it as lease rental or we can call it as MLP, minimum lease payment. So from lessor point of view, lessor is purchasing the asset and giving it to the lessee. The lessee has to make periodical payment called lease rental to the lessor. That arrangement is called lease. At the conclusion of the lease period, the asset goes back to the lessor. That means suppose the lease period is, let it be 10 years. After using the asset for 10 years, the lessee has to return back the asset to the lessor, because originally the asset is owned by the lessor, right? But in the absence of any other provision, normally this will not happen. Normally there is an agreement or provision in the agreement that at the end of the lease period, the lessor will give the right to the lessee to buy the asset. To buy the asset. In that case, the lessee will get the ownership of the asset at the end of the lease period, in the absence of any other provision in the contract regarding compulsory acquisition. Now, lease financing is more prevalent. So, where actually lease is more prevalent, or commonly adopted. So, more prevalent in the acquisition of assets such as computers and electronic equipment. Due to technological development, computers and other electronic equipment will become obsolete very soon, because a lot of economic or technological development is taking place. So in these cases of computers and electronic equipment, normally they will take it on lease. The business will take these computers and electronic equipment on lease because its life is very short. Soon it will become outdated. That is the reason why for computers and electronic equipments, they go for lease. Now, advantages. You understood the meaning of the term lease, right? Now, advantages of lease financing to the business. Tax benefit is availed both by both the parties, that is lessor and lessee. Every financial decision has to be considered from tax point of view, because income tax rate is very high. That is the reason why all financial decisions will be taken from the point of view of tax liability. So here the lessor and lessee both will get the tax advantage. How? The lessor is the owner of the asset. So when the lessor is the owner, they will get the depreciation benefit. Depreciation is an expense which is allowed by Income Tax Act to compute the income. When depreciation is charged, the income will come down. Tax liability will decrease for the lessor. Similarly, for the lessee, the annual lease rentals or MLPs, minimum lease payments, are allowed as deduction in computing the income. So the income will come down, tax liability will decrease. The lessor and lessee both are getting the tax advantage from the lease. Secondly, the cash outflow payment related to lease are spread over several years, hence saving the burden of one-time significant payment. The benefit to the lessee is the payment for the asset will spread over number of years. So the business will not feel the pinch. In lump sum amount, if the business pays, it will be a big problem, cash flow problem for the business. Example, the cost of the asset is 20 lakh. But the business does not have 20 lakh. There is a cash flow problem, but the business wants asset. So leasing is best, because by taking the asset on lease, the business can be able to use the asset without paying any lump sum amount. The amount is spread over a number of years, so cash flow problem will not be there. Then the risk of obsolescence is borne by the lessor. This allows greater flexibility to the lessee. That means in case of those assets which will become outdated, obsolete very soon due to technological changes, in case of those assets, the risk of obsolescence will go to the lessor, because he is the owner. So lessee will have more flexibility, because as soon as the lease period is over, he will give back the asset to the lessor. That means the risk of obsolescence will be on the head of the lessor, not on the lessee. At the end of the leasing period, the lessee holds the right to buy the property and terminate the leasing contract, thus providing flexibility to the business. One more advantage is, after paying all lease agreement, normally the lessor will give the right to the lessee to own the asset. It is not compulsory to return it back to the lessor. If the mostly the provision will be given in the agreement that at the term ends, the lessee can purchase back the asset in its name. These are some of the advantages of lease financing. But apart from that, some limitations are also there. Compared to other source of financing, lease financing will have some limitations. The first one, lessee in the case of default installment payment may have to terminate the lease. Suppose if the lessee is not in a position to pay the lease rental due to financial problems, due to cash flow problems, in that case compulsorily the lease agreement will get terminated. There is a provision in the agreement that if the lessee fails to make the lease payment, the lessor will take back the asset. Always there is a risk. At any time the asset may go. So the lessor may take over the property at his own will. The lessor may in addition require the lessee to pay for damages or accelerated rental payments. So if the lessee makes any delay in the payment, so the lessor can put damages or penalties on lessee. And apart from that, the lease rental may get accelerated due to non-payment of lease rental. That is a limitation. Second one, the lessee in a finance lease is normally required to make an absolute and unconditional commitment to pay the rent to a lessor. Normally, in the lease agreement, one of the provisions is whether the lessee's business is incurring loss or getting profit, no way concerned to the lessor. The lessor will pay, you have to pay the lease rental whatever your business conditions are. That means it will become a big burden. To the business, it will become a big burden because whether the business is earning profit or loss, the business must pay the lease rental. That's also one of the limitations. Any increase in the value of the asset caused by improvement done by the lessee will not be providing any benefit to the lessee. Sometimes what will happen, the lessee will make some improvement on the asset, due to which the value of the asset will increase. But that value increased in the asset will go to the lessor only. There is no benefit to the lessee, because he is making the improvement for its own use. But at the end of the lease agreement, the asset will be returned back to the lessor. No benefit to the lessee. And next one, the cost of leasing is generally higher than the cost of debt. It is seen. Many times it is seen that the cost of debt is normally lower than the cost of leasing. So instead of taking the asset on lease, sometimes it will be better to take the loan from bank and purchase the asset, and whatever we are paying to the lease agreement, lease deed, instead of that you pay the interest to the bank. The cost of debt might be lower than the cost of leasing. The last one, the lessee cannot terminate the contract at will except by paying heavy penalties. If the lessee does not want to continue the lease agreement, if the lessee wants to terminate the contract, they can terminate, but by paying huge penalties. That's a big problem on lessee. Without penalty, the contract cannot be terminated. That's it. So in this video, I have completed all the sources of long-term finance. That is equity shares, preference shares, debentures, bonds, retained earning, public deposits, loan from financial institutions, commercial banks, and lease financing. So if you remember these 9 different sources, definitely you can be able to write an examination the theory question regarding sources of long-term finance. And inshallah in the next video I'll take up the next topic called capital structure. So if you are satisfied, give a like to the video, share my channel, subscribe if you have not yet subscribed. And one more thing, my channel is being viewed from different countries apart from India. Almost more than 20 countries the channel is being watched. But from analytics I have seen, but I'm not getting any comments from different countries. So if you are watching from anywhere throughout the world, give your comment right from where you are watching and how you like this channel and what are the methods of improving the channel. Your comments are always welcome. Inshallah, we will continue the next topic in the next video.